Alright, happy Sunday, folks. Not that you know it's Sunday, but I do. You guys have seen this car or one like it before. This is, I want to say a 2011 maybe, Cadillac Hearse. Back for more front and rear bumper repairs. This one I repaired maybe 2-3 years ago, and it had had a rear impact before they bought it, and it put a bunch of gel coat cracks in the fiberglass, and I chased a bunch of them out, but the problem I ran into is a lot of them were under this riveted on plastic molding that's underneath here, and the bumper is actually glass to the car, and there's some structural reinforcement underneath it that's aluminum that you can see right where the corner of the aluminum plate is. It comes out and the bumper sits on it here, and there's some cracks. We're not going to chase them out this time. They just wanted to fix the scratches in the bumper, which, you know, that may be the best course of action, strictly because we may be into way more of a can of worms than anybody wants to get into. So that's this one. We're getting ready to prime that. There's Andy's tailgate. We're getting ready to prime it. It had a bunch of doinks in it. I got a previous video on this. Basically, I pulled a dent right here, and then the rest of them were just little low spots that I didn't even bother trying to pull. That one was a big paint gouge. It had a little dent underneath it, so I filled that, and that was actually where I put the ground clamp on to use the dent pulling machine. And it had a bunch of chowder marks up here in this corner where it was gouged up, and we're trying a new approach here. Usually you would feather those out, but in order to contain these kind of quick repairs, I got myself one of these guys right here. Of course there's no name on it, but this is a prep pen, and basically if you look inside the tip there, sorry about that. So that's what you got. You got a bunch of fiberglass little fingers that come out of that, and that'll leave a nice prep scratch in there. So basically what I did for those front bumper scratches that were too deep, we could have taken this prep pen and mixed up some base coat and clear coat and dabbed them in there and then blocked them out and horsed around like that, but I can do a blow-in on that corner faster than I can monkey around doing that. But we are going to have to do a couple scratch repairs on the fenders that aren't through to the paint on this one, but the other side they are. Basically, I think you can see like that guy right underneath there. I basically just took this prep pen and went like that, and then wiped some U-Pole Dolphin glaze over it and blocked it out. It's kind of strange how there's this big area here, but most of those are filled in with glazing putty, believe it or not. But if you're going to wipe scratches and stuff, I recommend trying one of these. See if you like it. It also works good for getting up along those edges. If you push too hard, you get a pretty deep scratch, so you don't have to get carried away, and it preps really quick. So that's one thing I'm working, or two things I'm working on. And then we've got this panel right here. This is from the interior of the back of that car. It's basically a piece of laminate countertop with an edge routed on it, just for appearance. But something had been put in the back, whether it was a gasket or otherwise, and it scraped this really bad. And I did some repair on it, but the problem is it's MDF plywood, which is like sawdust glued plywood, and we got some stuff printing through. So I'm gonna work on that a little bit more. But I basically took glazing putty and fixed all the gouges in it, and threw some rattle can on it just to see what it looked like, because I couldn't tell. And I didn't want to put a bunch of primer on it. This is an interior part, so it really doesn't see any abuse. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got some primer mixed up here in a cup. This is Valspar HS35, which is a 4-to-1 higher build primer. Works pretty good. So we'll bring you back in a minute and we'll get some primer on. Alright, you guys are going to notice I got a really small pattern on this gun, and I'm going to hold the camera in my hand and kind of show you what I'm doing to get all these little spots, because I don't want primer all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my mask up, and you guys can just sit back and watch. But all the spots are primed on this. This stuff just got 2 coats. Basically all the work that was done on this was done in 320. And you can put an argument for, well, you probably shouldn't sand glazing putty or primer with 320, but I do it all the time on little repairs and it works fine. As long as you use a hard block and you're not digging into a big feather edge with it. Most of this stuff was just prepping up a little scratch and 320ing around it and putting a little smear of filler on it and then using a hard block and blocking it flat. That way we reduce the amount of Renegade 180 scratches that are in this, because all this was laid over paint. This is a fiberglass body on this, so I don't like to dig into them too far because I don't know what's on them, and I've had problems with these bumpers before. If you start digging, you're not going to find buried treasure, you're going to find trouble. Again, I don't know what this is, and I don't think this has anything to do with the particular coach conversion company that builds these cars, but just whoever's doing paint on them. And a lot of times these are lease vehicles, so what happens is a company leases it from brand new, they lease it for a year or 2, they turn it in, these cars don't get any miles on them hardly. I mean, I think this car might have 30 or 40,000 miles on it. So they keep it for a couple years. You know, maybe the car's been in an accident, maybe it's not, but unless it was in a horrible accident, the insurance company doesn't see these cars as much. So they go back to a body shop or the coach builder. They used to take theirs back to the coach builder and have them touch them up. But they do blow-ins on them, and they don't paint whole panels when they paint them. and they put really inexpensive products on it, which none of those things are really a problem. But if I don't really have an idea of what was done to it previously, I really have to tiptoe around it and be careful, because this one, I think in the video that I did the first time on it 2, 3, 4 years ago, repairing cracks, I was spraying base coat, maybe it was either on this corner or in here. Long story short, even with the primer over it, it wrinkled it up. So whatever was underneath, it just was not holding it down. So I try and be real careful what size scratches I put in these, just because of that, to try not to open up that whatever clear was on it and base coat was on it before, and get too carried away. I thought I did a blow-in on this front bumper before, and it wasn't this car, it was a different car, but it was the same area. So I don't know what it is with, these cars have horrible turning radius, but these corners seem to get chewed up. And I'll show you, I was talking about some scratches before. I know I'm bouncing around, but I don't have anything else to show you guys. I tried taking some 1500 to these scratches, and the white in there is just dust from sanding on this one, but this one is actually through to the primer, and it was through to the primer before I ever sanded on it. So I just opened it up a little bit, and I am going to brush touch this with some clear coat and base coat mixed together. They don't usually match perfect, but it eliminates a white spot in a very dark green car. It's either that or do a burn-in or peel all that pinstripe off and 2 emblems and redo it. Something else I think is noteworthy or sort of comical on these vehicles, I haven't painted this panel before, but I think maybe the camera will pick this up. There is like this is a chrome or stainless applique. This is clear coat that's bridged and paint that's bridged all the way over the top of it, and you can see the white maybe in it right there, and that's probably compound or wax or something like that. So I really have to be careful with these cars and clean them with a toothbrush down in there, because you can probably see there's actually paint under this chrome applique going into the corner of the door jamb. I mean, they're not easy to paint, and you're not going to peel all this stainless off the paint one anyway. That piece of stainless isn't cheap. It's actually double-sided taped, I believe. Yeah, it's double-sided taped to the car, because they had a limousine that had those same chrome appliques over the bottom of the doors, and it got smashed, and I think we paid $200 for one of them just to replace it once I repaired the door. So yeah, these cars are interesting to say the least, but that's it for today, guys. I'm gonna go try and get some videos put together and hang out at my wife's office and get some uploads for you. So hope you're all having a good one, and we'll see you later.